It is 100% a game changer. Drew said 84% of the people aren't using it. So 16%, 1-6, not 60, 16% of the entire world is using AI. And you're one of those people. So you're ahead.
This will find the risk, this will find the policy violation, and you will be able to use your professional judgment to make the judgment call. Now, how much is this going to improve your business? Is this going to 5x your business, 10x? At some point, if you really got this down, why could it not 100x your business, really?
Just stop and take a second, right? Because if you're here, you're so ahead of the curve. So ahead of the curve. Even if you're listening to this in 2027, perhaps even 2028, you're very likely still ahead of the curve.
Hey, it's the Pioneers Podcast. It's the Pioneers Podcast. It's the Pioneers Podcast.
What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the Pioneers Podcast. Today, we're actually stepping away from the hype of Silicon Valley and the headlines of the super intelligent machines to focus on something more practical, your time and your bottom line. Okay, so today we're actually going to be talking about like what we call like fossil problems. So any problems that like a typical business would be going through. We're going to be talking about AI and how AI has actually helped specific businesses. We're going to go through case studies today on how these specific businesses implemented that. Before we get started, Chad, how's everything going with you?
Things are great, Drew. And I was really excited to do this episode because of the fact, like you had said, we talked about this woo-woo, AI a lot, like, oh, use it in your business, and we know AI is going to change the world. We know it's going to take things over, but also, without getting too in the nitty gritty of down, Next.js and NPM and yada, yada, yada.
Yeah.
How is that actually practical to I wake up, I send invoices, I give sales pitches, I manage people, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So I am really excited for this episode because I think that's kind of like the whole point of this, right? Is bringing AI for non-technical people.
That's it. That's what we're here to do, is to help the non-technical. I think it sounds like
because that is us. It is the blind leading the blind.
Yep. We're leading from the front, but we're still in it. So before we get started, I just want to go through something and make everyone understand, specifically me and Chad, to understand AI adoption and where we are in this like cycle, if you will, like this market cycle, likening it to the cotton gin and their adoption, the internet, all these different adoptions, the television, the airplane, whatever. Where are we with relation to that? And if you're listening, this is a picture of 2,500 dots. And all of them together equals 8.1 billion humans, which is how many humans are in the world. So each dot is 3.2 million people. Okay. And you see all the empty space, right? All the empty dots, which is crazy.
And for those who aren't looking at this, it's basically, I don't know, think of like an Instagram picture with like the bottom, what would you call that, Drew? Like the bottom 1/7 of it.
Yeah.
Just kind of like shaded greens.
So the gray dots are the ones that have never used AI. Okay. Never used it in any capacity. And that is 6.8 billion people. 84%. Okay.
4%. No, seriously. I think that really does require just stop and take a second, right? Because if you're here, you're so ahead of the curve. So ahead of the curve. Even if you're listening to this, so we're recording this February 26, 2026. Even if you're listening to this in 2027, perhaps even 2028, you're very likely still ahead of the curve, though that margin is short, getting more and more marginal, smaller. But the fact that we are right here and that you, as a listener, have the opportunity to become one of these green dots, it is 100% a game changer. Especially only, Drew said 84% of the people aren't using it. So 16%, 1-6, not 60, 16% of the entire world is using AI. And you're one of those people. So you're in the
16%. And imagine that in terms of like the internet, right? Making your first website, you're in the first 16% of humans. We're not talking about the United States. We're talking about humans in the world. And so 16% have used a free chatbot. Okay. So they've just used the basic ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini, DeepSeek, whatever. They've used free chatbot. Now, 0.3% or 15 million of the 8.1 billion in the world have used a paid $20 per month AI. Okay.
So 0.3%, 7, right? Am I doing my math right here, Drew? So
Correct.
99.7 people have not paid for AI. So if you've paid $1 for AI, whether that be tokens, your $19 a month ChatGPT, your upgraded Claude, your whatever you pay for, maybe you pay for an X subscription. That puts you 99.7%. That's huge.
Crazy.
On a technology, Drew, that's going to change the world. Imagine
Right.
being in the first 99.7% of the an adopter of the internet.
And this just all puts into perspective like what we're trying to do here at the Pioneers podcast is we're just trying to guide that all these gray squares, right? We're just trying to guide them into, using chatbots, paying $20 a month for AI, implementing it into your business. It's just, we're at the very beginning of all this.
We're trying to make you a green dot.
Yeah, that's what we're doing. So the idea for this episode is basically how are companies, small businesses actually implementing AI? And we're going to go through that here today. So the frontier of applied AI, small business strategic case studies, and the rise of the smart moat. Okay.
Real quick. I love the word moat when it comes to all of this, right? Because I think as AI keeps adopting, we see this very rapid adoption. And even though 99.7% have not paid for AI, as things start to roll, we've seen in AI the rapid adoption of things. For example, ChatGPT broke records for how quick it grew on the internet. OpenClaw, I believe, did OpenClaw beat ChatGPT in terms of how it came out?
No, because you had to pay for it, basically. You had to basically pay for a Mac Mini. And so it didn't.
Okay. But my point in saying all that is like the rapid adoption of it, because once it catches fire, it spreads quick. So to be deeper and deeper and deeper into the moat, so basically starting now, your moat's deeper, right? And the deeper that moat, of course, we all know what a moat is. It's the inability of other businesses, barriers to entry, the inability of other businesses to intrude on your edge, so to speak. So huge, absolutely huge. And sorry, Drew, I very rudely interrupted you, but I think the word moat is so important on this.
I 100% agree. I think, since the dawn of time, you've been even from the physical standpoint of having a castle, you need a moat. You can't let people take over your castle, take over the thing that you've built. But that's exactly what it is. And so right now, the smart moat is agentic, not human. Okay. So the competitive advantage of 2026 is no longer about your headcount. I have a business that has 100 employees or 200 employees or 20,000 employees. It's about strategic integration of AI. How do you integrate AI into your small business? That is going to be the difference, right? And so today we're going to be talking about escaping the quote unquote fossil state, right? So shifting from chaos, linear friction, the inbox trap, to what they call asynchronous scale, or the 24/7 loop, where basically your employees or your processes are working 24/7, right? Moving from labor-dependent loops to agent-driven outcomes. We're going to walk you through that whole thing today here on the pod. So pillar number 1, this is a UK legal service, and let me just outline everything that happened with them, and then we'll jump into it and have a little bit of back and forth. But basically, the fossil problem was that legal queries, they don't stop at 5 p.m., right? Prospective clients were hitting the site at night, getting no response, and then bouncing to a competitor, okay? So this led to inconsistent lead quality and thousands in lost revenue. The frontier solution, aka what the pioneers would is they built custom AI assistants using custom GPT, which you can, I made a whole video on this, on how you can make a custom GPT. They trained it specifically on their own successful past cases and pricing documents. They gave the AI an empathetic advisor persona. So basically, they didn't just tell them the answer. They had a little bit of personality around it, and they embedded it as a live chat widget, okay? And I basically explained a whole, like a chatbot on a website, but it's deeper than that if you're trying to build it yourself. It's not just a chatbot. It's specifically built for you, right? Now, the ROI of that, someone's listening, you've been in business for 20 years and you're like, okay, that's cute, but like, what's the ROI? Okay. Sales doubled. When they
Wow.
implemented that, sales doubled. The AI handled the midnight rush, qualifying leads and answering complex how much questions instantly without adding a single staff member. Okay.
So this is
Yeah.
so interesting, Drew, because I think it's such a clear opportunity of how to leverage, for example, in this case. Now, let me make sure I understand it. Was it a GPT? So they made a custom GPT on the App Store? Yes.
No, so they made a custom GPT, most likely in chat and OpenAI's ecosystem. So you basically just feed all this stuff. Like I made a video on this. You just feed it all your documents. Sacagawea AI, when it comes out, will be basically this. And it's basically trained
AKA
on all the things.
Stock AI.
SAC AI. So it's trained on all their internal docs. And then you hook it up to like an intercom or some sort of chatbot you embedded on your website. And now people can basically talk to you, but you're asleep.
Which is so nice because especially for attorneys. I mean, when you're going to an attorney, just think about it. You're probably not coming in on a winning streak, so to speak. So you're calling your attorney at midnight, hey man, I'm getting arrested. What do I do? Do I take a breathalyzer? Whatever it is. Definitely not speaking of personal experience here. But the fact that you could have something that will funnel that traffic so directly, because think about it, it's hard. If you've ever been in a position where you need an attorney, God forbid you're in that position, what do you Google it? Do you ask for a referral? Do you listen to a commercial, 1-800 heart or whatever? What does that process look like? How do I know I'm not getting ripped off? How do I know I'm asking the right questions? How do I know I'm getting the right answers? How do I know that if I ask a question and they tell me an answer, because attorneys have a tendency to do this, you ask a question and they give you back some bullshit answer and you don't want to ask again because you don't want to sound stupid, but you also don't know what they're talking about at all. So having this AI, fantastic, even if you're the attorney, right? Because like you said, Drew, it's a sales funnel ultimately, because it's embarrassing, it's intimidating, it's awkward talking to someone like an attorney, like an accountant. In situations like this, generally, if you're in a pickle and maybe you're not super comfortable spilling everything out, having this as a sales funnel is just such a game changer. I mean, obviously, because it doubled their business, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's pretty intuitive if you think about it. Most issues when it comes to legal issues come when someone's laying in bed, worried about something, and they're like, oh, I really need to figure this out. You as an attorney, you can't take a call at 2 a.m., 5 a.m. when most people are thinking about their issues in life and their existence in the world. And so if you're asleep, who's taking that? Well, am I going to hire a $45,000 to $60,000 employee to stay up all night and listen to these? Or am I going to do, what we've outlined here is train an agent to do it? And the key here that people need to really hone in on is the fact that it's constantly learning throughout this whole process. So if people are coming on your website, if you're having, let's say 10,000 people a month coming onto your website looking for answers, every single time they ask a question and they get an answer and they get a positive review or positive feedback, it's constantly going back into the agent. And so the agent is constantly learning. And so that's the, I talk about it a lot, but that's the
huge.
Tesla model. That's the Tesla model, where Tesla has tens of millions of cars on the road that are constantly taking in information on the road so that it's going back into the main computer and it's constantly learning over and over and over again every second. So it's getting better 10 times, 1,000 times, 100,000 times better than if you had an employee doing it and, they weren't learning from it. They were just reading off of scripts, right? So it's very intuitive, like why this would work. So good. Shout out to them. Great job. The next case study I want to talk about is a boutique clothing store in Austin, Texas. Okay. They automated the where is my order inbox. Okay. So let's talk about the fossil problem. Let's talk about what, the problem is before AI came in. With $750,000 in revenue, the owner and one part-timer were spending half their day manually looking up tracking numbers and return policies. It was low value work, slowing down high value growth. So the owner's focusing on these things. Where's my order? They were doing about $750,000 in revenue. So you can tell that they're getting a lot of orders in. And so it's taking a lot of time. The Frontier solution was a GPT powered bot connected directly to their Shopify. And instead of a human looking up a database, the AI talks to the store's inventory and shipping records in real time. Again, that's so cute. That's so nice that they did that. What is the ROI? The ROI was a 67% reduction in support tickets. They saved $1,000 a month in labor cost, and customer happiness actually went up because the answers were instant. Okay? One thing I've realized recently is that a lot of people would rather a quick answer than the perfect answer, right?
Speed delayed, 100%.
Exactly. So one of the key takeaways for our non-technical audience is start narrow. Don't try to make a bot that does everything. Make a bot that only does your FAQ and your order lookups perfectly.
I think, Drew, I love the fact that you included this example, right? Because this isn't some massive corporation, right? This is a boutique. They make $750,000. And let's assume they have a 20% profit margin, which, I would have to assume to be a little generous for a boutique. So that's 7.5 times, what's that, 150? Is my math right? I think that's right. Yeah. 150K. So if they save $1,000 a month, that's $12,000 a year on that bottom line, that's big because that contributes to that employee's salary. Maybe that could help offset some advertising costs, some digital advertising, and really allow more money to be invested back into the business without being bogged down by creating all these obscure processes of like, oh, let's drag in AI to every single part of it. But instead, identifying, asking the question, what am I doing that I hate doing that is potentially losing money because it's costing me so much more time? Because do we know, Drew, in this case study, how much time they were spending on it or no?
No, but it seems like they were spending a lot of time. You have $750,000 in revenue on a clothing brand. And so they're probably getting a ton of orders, right? And I think we broke it down to like, let's say they get 100 incoming tickets. 7 of those can be resolved completely autonomously, right? Completely done by agentic AI can easily answer those questions. Where's my order, right? I can literally just look that up and give you an easy answer. Now, some of those are obviously going to be like a little bit more nuanced, a little bit more like specific to the brand. And at that point, it's like, okay, it can be escalated to, their part-time employee even. And so I was listening to a story about Microsoft and how they were growing so much and they wanted to have like 98% of their staff, they wanted it to be programmers. But they got to a point where they had so much front office staff that they ended up trying to like, how can we cut this in half so we can get more programmers? That's what we're looking at here is like, if you have a clothing brand, your whole goal should be focusing on product. Can I have the best possible product? AI allows you to not have so much bloat at the top. So, and start narrow, like our lesson says, like start narrow, build an order lookup bot first, measure deflection before attempting to automate your entire strategy. Right.
So start small seems like the moral of that story there.
Right. Exactly. So case number 3, I really like this one because this is for our brick and mortar non-technical listeners. The digital front desk. Okay. This is for brick and mortar again. The fossil problem was the staff were being pulled off the sales floor to answer the phone for basic questions. Are you guys open? Is the blue dress still in stock? Right. This hurt the experience for the customer standing right in front of them. Okay. This blows my mind when I go to a brick and mortar store. It could be anything. It could be a restaurant. It could be a clothing store. It could be whatever. And I'm talking to the staff member, and typically there's only like one. I'm talking to a staff member, and the phone rings. Excuse me, and they go and answer the phone. Right? You're losing, like, the person in store is most likely more important than the call that's coming in. But this happens
100%.
all the time. In all brick and mortar, this happens all the time. And this is how you handled it. The Frontier solution to that is an AI chatbot on their website and social media acting as a first-line filter. You're filtering these questions. Is this a simple question that has been answered 100 times? Then AI can answer that. It answers the boring questions so the phone stops ringing for non-essential tasks. Super cute, Andrew. Amazing. What's the ROI? The ROI, 30% increase in customer satisfaction. The staff spent more time selling to people in the store and less time acting as a directory, okay? And the key lesson here for all of our non-technical users is AI isn't just for online businesses. It's a shield that protects your physical staff from digital distractions. AI isn't just for online businesses. It's a shield that protects your physical staff from digital distractions.
Which is just, let me go on a tangent here for a second, Turo.
Yep.
There is so much in what you just said. Taking away your physical staff. Now, remember, your physical staff, most likely, you're in America. If you're listening to this now, not 100%, but most likely you're in America. And in America, if you're paying a human to stand somewhere, you're paying at least $10, $12 an hour at a minimum. And then, of course, you have, how often do you pay them, et cetera, et cetera. Thousands of dollars, tens of thousands, potentially hundreds of thousands of dollars. And they're distracted by things, low value tasks, right? So as owners, we always talk about like, oh, high value task, outsource stuff that it doesn't yield the same return that my time would. The same goes for your employees, right? Why wouldn't it? And if it, every minute costs them whatever it costs, depending on however much they make, let's say every minute costs them $1, okay, $60 an hour. And then if they can save 10 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes a day, you have those compounding returns there. And then I think also going a step further with this is chatbots, yes. But I think the real opportunity with this is going to be voice agents, because I think we are too far sophisticated, advanced, far in technology to be talking on the phone. I mean, the fact that I have to pick up the chiropractor and make an appointment, no, seriously. Like, I have not had a chiropractor appointment in probably a month or two, simply because I haven't wanted to pick up the phone and schedule it. Now, can I? Yeah, sure. I could do it right when I'm done. Do I want to? No, not really. Hey, it's Chad. I have to make some nice pleasantries. How have you been? Blah, 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 blah. I don't have the bandwidth to do that, nor do I really want to do that. So taking that, of course, more to a business application, think about how many people call your business and ask, for lack of better terms, and I'm careful to say this, but stupid questions.
Yeah.
That you could easily train. Let me rephrase that. Questions that you answer 100 times a day. Or that's what that's what it feels like you do. Because I know in any business, there are those select questions that you feel like you're asked, answering 100 times a day. But taking the voice agents and allowing someone to pick up the phone, call, 1-800-DREWS Plumbing, and then talk to a dispatcher, talk to someone who's going to go out and just handle that situation, or not even talk to someone. Well, yes, talk to someone, but not the person that's going to handle that situation. Talk to a voice agent that's going to direct that operation. So, all right, I can breathe now. That was my tangent.
Yeah, and what is the pushback that you're going to get from a brick and mortar company? Well, people want human interaction. Well, it's funny because obviously we know that local retail customer satisfaction is the most important part of the ROI, right? And 30% increase in customer satisfaction because people want answers before they want personality, right? And you might say the other pushback might be, well, it's on my Google, it's on Google, just Google it. You're asking people to do things that they don't want to do. And if you put too much friction in front of them, they're not going to come to your store. They're going to go to another store, right? And I guarantee you that, like the legal example, they're going to go to your competitor who did set this up, right? So the first thing is like, oh, they want human interaction. Nope. This case study proves that
they want less friction. People just want less friction.
Exactly.
And if you can leverage AI to reduce the friction, hello. And if you don't know how to do that, Lewis and Clark AI, we've got you covered. So just reach out. We'd be more than happy to set up some voice agents for you, answer any business, property management. If you are my chiropractor, I should talk to my chiropractor about doing that. But definitely reach out to us because we'd be more than happy to consult, set that up, and give you a turnkey system.
Going back across the pond, okay, there was a London home cleaning service, and they had to go from move from call me back to booked and paid. Okay. The fossil problem was that booking a cleaner required a game of phone tag. Customers had to wait for a quote, then a date, then a payment link, and friction, like we've talked about, equals lost bookings. The frontier solution, the Pioneers podcast solution, is a WhatsApp-based AI agent. Since customers are already on WhatsApp, the AI handles the entire flow from service selection, scheduling, payment, all in one thread. Don't even have to call. Cute. What's the ROI? A 30% increase in bookings, okay? The instant gratification factor meant customers booked them before the competitor even called back. This is a game, right? This is a game. I'm looking for a cleaner right now. I want to book it now, because if I wait 20 seconds, I'm going to not want to do it anymore. Right?
Exactly.
This is just the environment we live in. People can push back on that and say, "Oh, well, that's dumb." Well, that's how it is. And so the non-technical takeaway is put the AI where the customer already lives. If they use WhatsApp, then let them buy on WhatsApp.
Exactly. I mean, and it ultimately comes down to Dopamine Nation, right? On Amazon, you see that little blue button, or the little blue Prime tag. I'm clicking that one because I know it's going to get here faster, as opposed to the other one that doesn't have that cool little tag. Even maybe this one's not as expensive, but maybe I click it and they charge me ship. It's friction, right? And sure, maybe it's not logical because maybe I could get it for less money, but it's friction. And I think if you're going to spend money on a service, cleaning, etc., you're not particularly looking for the cheapest price. You're looking for what are you paying for? You're buying convenience. You're buying the ability of someone else to do something for you. So ultimately, it all comes down to a more frictionless life. So why would you add friction in that sales cycle?
It's not even whether or not this is good or bad, like friction life or non-friction life. It's the fact that if I have friction and Chad doesn't have friction, Chad's going to win. That's just how,
Right.
that's why do you want more friction in a business like this? Home services needs to be frictionless. I need to be able to offer my service right now at the price, whatever. You add a chatbot, it asks them a couple questions, books it, it's in your calendar, you show up, you get the job done. Again, I want to read this again because so good. Meet the customer where they are. If they live in WhatsApp, put the booking agent in WhatsApp. If they're on Facebook, put it in Facebook. If they're on Instagram, put it on Instagram. Figure that out. And also, again, we can set that up for you. Next.
And figure it out.
Right. I really like this one. This is a freelance marketing consultant, the self-scheduling solopreneur. So this is someone who is the only person in their business, right? Business owner, the janitor, the accountant, they're all one person. The fossil problem is scheduling ping pong, sending 5 emails just to find a 30-minute window for a Zoom call. It was eating 5 hours of billable time each week. Okay. So putting this into context with anyone who's listening to this, what is your hourly rate? You're wasting 5 times that every single week. So you're wasting money. It's not just wasting time. You're wasting money when you're not doing it, right? When you're not adding AI to your business, you're wasting money. The frontier solution, an AI enhanced scheduler built on Calendly, doesn't just show a calendar. It suggests the best times based on her deep work hours and automatically follows up until they book.
I think that is the game changer right there. Because if someone just sends me a Calendly, like, okay, here, set up a time, it's almost like, fuck off, bro.
Yeah.
It's like saying my time's more important than yours, so pick for my schedule is, I think, how it feels, right? However, if there was something that was a little more interactive and also was a little more persistent and followed up, even if it followed up once, it would probably push, and I'm speaking for me personally here, but it would probably push me over the edge because I can tell you there is a 0% conversion if you send me a Calendly and with nothing else. Because it's just not going to happen. I mean,
100%.
like I said, it's rude. Yes, helpful to you, not really to me. I guess I get, but I still have to get on my couch. It's impersonal. I don't like it. I think it creates a huge point of friction in the sales process because of the way it makes the other person feel. And of course, in sales, it's all about how you're making the other person feel, right? So I think it's not as linear as like, here's a solution, let's, pick the answer, but more being a little more engaged. Drew, hey, I noticed you haven't booked this yet. Like, we just had another appointment open on Tuesday. It wasn't open. Like, what does your Tuesday at 3 p.m. look like? A lot more engaging than, hey, Drew, here's a Calendly.
One thing I've been absolutely hammering home with some sales teams that we've worked with is you don't want you don't want friction comes in multiple clothes, like multiple hats, right? Friction comes in multiple ways, right? Multiple forms. Thank you. One is like friction of time. How long does it take me to actually schedule the thing, right? The other thing is friction of effort. How many different tabs do I have to go through before I actually am able to do the thing I wanted to do, right? The other one, and this is sort of where this gets to, is the friction of if I send you a Calendly link and you say, hey, Andrew, can you help me with my marketing? And I send you a Calendly link without talking to you about anything, I'm asking you to have enough faith in me to set aside 30 minutes of your time in the future when you don't know what's going to happen in the future and book a time with me. That's so crazy that people still do that. But the idea here is that most of the conversation to get you from here to here with that friction in the middle of the faith can be automated, right? So you don't necessarily need to be talking to me because I'm probably going to ask similar questions to the last 10 people that you've already worked with, right? So it's going back to...
it's going back to what were you saying? I'm sorry.
No, it's going back to what we were talking about before. But one thing I want to get to real quick is the ROI of this, right? So it saves the 5 hours. That's over 200 hours a year redirected back into client work, aka revenue. And remember, this is a solopreneur. So the key takeaway here is if you bill for your time, automate your calendar first. It is the highest ROI move you can make as a solo business owner.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Of course, putting that into context, if you're a plumber making $100 an hour, 20 grand a year, right? Yeah, 200. Yeah. So I think big opportunity here. Big opportunity.
Yeah, no, I think it's really good that we've gone through multiple different types of businesses, and I think we've hit the full gambit. We do have one more that I'm really interested in talking about, but it's the finance and compliance side of things, right? So the review and red flag co-pilot. The fossil problem with this is that there's a highly skilled and expensive staff. They were spending hours manually checking documents against thick policy manuals to find errors or missing clauses. Most people are like, oh, that's your job. No, your job is not to be thumbing through all these different things. Your job is to be using your expertise to provide value to your client. The frontier solution of this is a private custom GPT trained on their specific internal rules and audit history. It doesn't write the legal documents, it audits them for risks, okay? And someone's listening, our one financial and legal advisor is listening to this, and they're asking, what's the ROI, okay? The ROI, drastically faster document turnover and significantly lower human error. New employees use it as an instant mentor to learn company policies. This is going to greatly improve onboarding. And this is what we talked about on the Angus episode, this is going to greatly improve systems and processes like onboarding new clients and onboarding new team members. It's going to get rid of that execution part of things. They're going to be able to have a constantly changing brain that they can lean on, as opposed to if I was the lawyer and I had someone coming in and they were apprenticing me, they would have to ask me all these different questions that maybe I don't want to answer today. I'm so focused on this, and it's taking time away from what I'm supposed to be doing that's generating revenue, and I'm talking to them. This can now do all that, and it's probably smarter than the best lawyer you have because it's a company brain. Now,
exactly.
The key takeaway here is don't use AI to replace your professional judgment. Use it to find the needles in the haystack so you can make decisions faster. Your job is to make decisions. AI can give you all the information you need to make the decision.
Exactly. Because I think that's ultimately going to be where a lot of these, for example, like the compliance people, let's say you're going out to raise a fund of some sort. I think a very important person that you'd want to have on that team would be the compliance officer, so you don't end up in prison by accidentally getting a little too creative. With that said, I think the big question is going to be like, oh, well, AI can't replace me. AI can't, it's questioning the competence of the AI. But I think we're seeing time and time again performing individuals consistently in every field: finance, legal, accounting, copywriting, coding, all of these various verticals. But I think ultimately, to your point, Drew, you're still going to have a few human, right? Because if I'm going out and raising a $500 million fund and I don't have a compliance officer, I say, oh, AI does my compliance. Guess what? You're the compliance officer, and your job just got so much easier. And you can do it for 10 different people now. And I think that's why you're seeing the rise of like fractional, CFOs, fractional sales leaders, fractional compliance officers, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, just because it's all about leverage, scale, and, really capitalizing on the education that you've earned and the experience that you've earned, but leveraging modern technology to make as much money as possible.
Yeah, I think you said it. It's just like you could take on so many more clients per person. And I think going back to basically all these in a nutshell, it's very important that you get your business practices or your KPIs and hiring the right people in place. Obviously, like we said in the Angus episode, business principles are still the same as they were in like 1900s, 1800s, really. You still need to hire the right people. You still need to make sure that they have the necessary resources to be successful. But looking at this specifically, the finance and compliance aspect, you're going to be making more per client, making more per worker, per attorney or whatever you're using in this. You're going to make more per attorney, which allows you to hire more attorneys in the end. It allows you to grow your business much, much quicker than you would if each attorney was taking all the time to read every single document to find the mistakes. The goal here is that you find all the mistakes and then you make the professional judgment, right? It's not the finding mistakes that is your job. Your job is to, when you find the mistakes, what do we need to change, right?
Exactly.
This will find the risk, this will find the policy violation, and you will be able to use your professional judgment to make the judgment call. Now, how much is this going to improve your business? Is this going to 5x your business, 10x? At some point, if you really got this down, why could it not 100x your business, really? Without being
Because I think,
hyperbolic.
exactly. And I think there's no true way to quantify this, right? Because ultimately, what it's doing is it's improving your business fundamentals in the sense that it's giving your customers a better experience. So, improving that customer experience, what is that going to do for your bottom line? I don't know. It depends on what business you're in, and there's so many different variables. But if you have the opportunity, right, to improve your customer experience, which debatably could be one of the most important things of your business. And part of that customer experience too is the outcome. Because let's say to run with the attorney example, you're an attorney, you miss something in the documents, and then, something happens and your client gets screwed over. Well, I'm not using Drew as my attorney anymore. Sorry. But if maybe Drew identifies all these 15 things in this, document that I was getting ready to sign, but 15 red flags and then 15 potential solutions, negotiation points, etc. Drew's my guy, And then what does that done for the retention, for building the lifetime value of that client or that customer?
Yeah, I think it just literally takes down, again, I don't want to like generalize business, but it gets to the point where you now have your KPIs, you now have your indicators of, is my business successful? Are my ads successful? Is my customer retention successful? You have those numbers, and now it's like, well, how can we use AI to increase this? And now you're solving problems in your business that is solving real problems in your business, like going back to the e-commerce one where they were just doing customer support tickets all day long. That's not moving your business forward. That is maintaining. That is making sure that, customer satisfaction is on point, which is very important. Like you said, that's probably one of the most important things in a business. You're making sure customer support is good, but you're not growing. And so this allows you to, I struggle to not say like this 100x is your business. It's like, it's taking the things that you're doing that are not moving your business forward, and it's delegating that to AI, automating it, and now you can step out and actually start growing it, right?
So, Drew, what would you do, out of these businesses that we talked about, the boutique, the law firm, the compliance stuff, we had given some pioneer solutions. How would you pro pioneer any of these solutions that we gave? Like, how would you bring any of these solutions up a step, up a notch? Because maybe they are doing these things. How would you bump it up?
I would say that most people are not doing these things. That's sort of that's why I wanted to like preface this, why like we're still at the like 86% of the world has never once used AI in any form or fashion. And for me, I'm like, so like no one's doing any of this stuff. And so for me, I think the first things first is finding these points in your business where it's like, okay, we're making $450,000 this year and I'm spending, 5 hours to 10 hours a week on customer orders and answering questions again and again and again. I'm thinking about hiring a part-time employee, but before you do that and you have the problems, can AI solve this? How can AI solve this? Maybe I should subscribe to the podcast and listen to how Andrew and Chad talk about how we should solve that. I think the more we go through these case studies, the more we're realizing that, like, why are these outliers? Why are these people, um, they're 30% more, 30% higher customer satisfaction? Like, why is not every business doing that? And it kind of brings me to my next point is like, what happens when everyone does this? That's sort of an issue that I think not many people talk about because we're not really even that close to that happening. But just for a
That's the
fun
part that I'm scared
experiment,
about most.
just for a fun
100% the part I'm
experiment,
scared about most.
what if every chiropractor in Jacksonville or in North Florida uses AI to answer all your questions?
The answer to your question, I have no idea, but I think it comes back to that moat, right? And you want to dig a really, really, really deep moat. And I
Yeah.
know on the projects that I'm vibe coding right now, once I'm, kind of happy with it, and while I should 100% be focusing on distribution, what I'm really focusing on is how can I dig my moat deeper? What and how? I have no idea. I asked Claude and it starts talking about some middleware and yada, yada, yada. I don't even know what it's talking about, but copy and paste it, put it in ChatGPT, said, does this make sense? And then it gives me a whole bunch of other technical stuff that I don't know what it's saying. And I put it back in Claude. So it's using the tools around you, is my point, and
Mm.
leveraging all of this information to figure out what you don't know. Because if you don't know it, there's a high probability other people don't know it. And the farther down those certain rabbit holes you go, the deeper your moat becomes.
100% agree. Like the
That was kind
difficulties
of
that
profound.
no, that was good. The problems that you're experiencing right now, the solution is part of your moat, right?
Exactly.
So it's like it's literally
It
like
is your moat, essentially,
it is.
right?
It is.
And
It
that's
is.
where
So yeah.
I think, kind of we love shooting pie in the sky here, but big opportunity on the macro really is going to be going in, for private equity or mini private equity, kind of like the Cody Sanchez style, buying the small businesses, the boring businesses, implementing AI and using that as the moat. Because I think you have an AI moat for what would you say, Drew? Maybe the next at least 5 years. I think after 5 years, it starts to get a little dicey. Like you can't be like, like in 2005, you can't be, oh, but we have a website. Cool.
Right.
So does everyone else. But if you said that in 1999, 2000, 2001, wow, you have a website?
I mean, honestly, you'd be surprised. I mean, we did it on one of the podcasts, but like how many businesses have a website now? It's like it's still way too low in my opinion. But as we go into AI, as we go into this AI frontier, we're learning that everything's sort of building on each other. So like the websites that were around for a long time are being picked up by generative AI as like, you should check this out, or you should like, shop here or whatever.
100%. And I think a lot of people are starting to see that too when it comes to what do they call it? They call it like AISO, so artificial intelligence search optimization, I believe is
Yeah.
the acronym. And essentially, when you think about it, it makes total sense, right? Like if you Google something, you're gonna get an answer, or what's gonna come up to the top is gonna be those high authority, links with websites that have, like I said, high domain authority, maybe backlinks, history, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And same thing's going to go with the AISO is if you have all this content out there, I think, ultimately blogs are coming back. I think blogs are going to be big. I think vlogs with the V is also going to be huge in terms of just spreading this knowledge and this understanding. And that, again, comes down to so much opportunity.
Yeah. So let's talk about, I really like that we've been talking about the moat. Let's talk about what the smart moat is, because me and you talk about how deep can we make our moat? I also think that that's something that we can be a little bit more cognizant of is like, it's not just about deep, it's about wide as well. Like you could have the deepest moat, but if it's only like this wide, I could just step over it. Right. And so
That is what she said.
we're moving into not the deep moat, but the smart moat. Okay. So let's start with iterative training. So you don't just set it, you score it. okay? You don't just have an AI agent that takes calls or takes your website traffic and converts it into leads. You have it constantly training, right? So this 90-day loop, how do we go from someone coming onto our website to becoming a client that's happy, right? You're constantly training this, and it's
The
constantly going
training,
back and forth, right? It's training
so important.
itself.
Because think about it, Drew, right? Let's say you put this on your web. We're both attorneys. You put this on your website now, and it's learning, it's learning, it's learning. Eventually, in 3 years, I decide to realize, yeah, maybe I need an AI chatbot. Who's is going to know more? Who's is going to be better? First of all, we don't even know where the technology is going to be, but I promise you have a head start on that tenfold.
So what's your moat? So what's your moat?
Time,
The
time.
the chatbot, or the information?
The information for sure,
Right.
because you have that time and that longevity. Because same deal, right? Like in the age of the internet, what's the moat? A website? I mean, maybe it was for a little bit, but then Wix came out, then Squarespace, and Word, what is it, WordPress, whatever all the website things are called. We're going to see tools to fill these problems, right? But what you're not going to be able to do is like if I could go back and like put toilet paper on Amazon and 5, shit, yeah, I'd also buy some Bitcoin while I was there, And that's where genius is in hindsight, but we're also giving you the genius right now.
Right. We are the, like, Lewis and Clark writing
We are the
writing it
genius.
writing in their journals back in the day. Like, we read that now and we're like, oh, of course they were gonna find, gold in San Francisco in the 40s. Of course they were. If they just gone out there. But at the time, it was like, what are you doing? There's uncharted territories out there. It's only 2 of you. Like, whatever. That's what we're doing. We're getting out there. We have no idea what we're gonna find. But if you're building a smart moat, you will also be on the right side of history. I promise you. So we have the iterative training, setting up something that's going to be able to understand and improve. This is something I've been obsessed with, is this idea of iterative training. Setting up something that people are going to come onto and say, hey, what's your price? Well, like, what are your prices for X, Y, and Z? What is your return policy? All these different things. And over time, you get enough information that you can basically predict what this person's going to say when they come onto your website. The next part is narrow scope. So solve one specific friction point, whether that's order lookup, but don't automate the strategy. Okay? The strategy stays with you. This is just a solve, or this is a solution for a specific problem.
Right. So you're automating the process, but not the strategy.
Right.
Well, yeah, more or less.
So iterative training, we've set it up. We're only setting it up for one specific problem. And then the last one is human in the loop. AI handles the grunt work. Humans handle the edge cases. So when we automate order entry or order delays and problems in our e-commerce business, right? People come to us and say, where the heck is my order? And you have AI set up where it learns, or it knows exactly where the order is, what order number it is. It gives them the information. It answers any of the further questions. If someone comes in and says, what is the material that this is made out of? And what is Andrew's birthday? Then maybe it should, get escalated or elevated up to us. Or say it's an influencer reaching out, someone with 250,000 followers, and we actually want to do a collaboration, and it's a little bit outside of the normal questions. It gets elevated or escalated to a human, right? So the human is still in the loop, and that way you can still make connections and you can still, move the needle forward when it comes to customer interaction. But that's not 95% of the problems. It's only that 5%.
Exactly. Because what it's doing is it's eliminating the friction, like we were talking about earlier. Because if there was the human in the loop, and to kind of use a different example, where I think in for some reason, I just think like the voice AI is going to be so prominent in property management. Okay. You live in a rental house, an apartment, et cetera, especially with the cost of buying a home, nowadays has skyrocketed. I think, the property management business, well, actually, I mean, I am in that realm of the business. So I know, it's growing, right? But my point in that is, okay, my toilet's clogged. Okay, what at 2 a.m.? Do I really? Well, I don't care if I have to wake up the plumber at 2 a.m., but does the plumber really want to get woken up at 2 a.m.? No. Does the property manager? No. However, especially if it's something like, oh, I put too much toilet paper down the toilet and all I need to do is do the plunger, and plunge it out. Because if I was a plumber and I had to wake up and do that, I'd be pissed, right? So I think giving the person the steps, right? Okay, your disposal doesn't work. Well, open it, take out, press the reset button with a screwdriver, whatever those steps are, especially if they're more tactical and they can be done over the phone. And then if that still doesn't work, then it automatically does escalate to the human in the loop. So I think the point in that is people get so concerned of like, oh, well, AI doesn't know, AI can't do it, AI won't, I don't want it to guardrails. And again, if you don't know how to do that, Lewis and Clark AI at our AI consultancy, we can absolutely set this up for you. But giving it the guardrails of if then, and if certain things happen, then it gets escalated to a human. So that way, you don't have your AI accidentally telling someone to stick a fork in an outlet, to fix a disposal or something.
Right. And let's talk about the implementation roadmap. If you're listening, we're going to take you through how to implement this in 3 phases. First phase is the discovery phase. Okay. This is the identifying the fossil friction. This is what we call the fossil friction. Where's your inbox clogged? Where's the scheduling tax? Find the pain point number 1. Okay. And you can do this by just like setting out your entire playbook. Like if you're a plumber, what the heck happens on a daily basis? Someone goes to your website, they're looking for how to schedule, and they can't find you, so then they call you, then they email you, you go through that whole process, find a time that works, blah, blah, blah. That's your friction. That's the problem. Phase number 2 is tooling, okay? Select the frontier tool. Choose the narrow tool. So we talked about custom GPTs here. I actually did a video on that. Make sure you check that out. Custom GPT for knowledge. And then Landbot, I have never heard of that, honestly, but Landbot for chat, and then make.com for glue. So, and I need to make a video on this, on how to actually set up an automation.
I never.
But you can have multiple different, like different chat bots out there that you can use. But you set up a custom GPT, you have the chat bot, and you basically have it learn on your business, and then create basically a customer service agent.
Yeah. And I'm not going to lie, Drew, this is a little cerebral, right? Like Landbot for chat, make.com for glue. I don't really know what all that is. But the beauty in all of this is if you go to any LLM and you describe these friction points that either you or your customer has, all you have to do is ask it, give me the exact steps to solve this using leveraging AI. And perhaps it'll suggest, similar to Landbot or make.com, which, like I said, I'm not familiar with. But there are so many tools out there to where you don't be intimidated by using something that you've never heard of or don't know how it works, or you log on and you're like, oh my God, this is what the shit. For example, I had ChatGPT walk me through how to make a VAPI setup, which is that voice agent. So you literally talk to it and it will make that chiropractor appointment on the receptionist end. But yeah, so be resourceful.
And then phase 3 is iteration, right? Execute the scoring loop, commit to reviewing interactions for 60 days, and then refine the quote unquote brain. The more you refine it, obviously the better it works. So what you need to be doing, and you can on a daily basis, or this is 60 days, every 60 days, you go in, you look at all the inquiries, you talk to the chatbot, and you have like a meeting with your chatbot, and it just learns and gets better and improves from this process. If you commit to this for, the entirety of your business, you're going to be in a way, way better place, because I'm telling you right now, looking at that, the thing we looked at the beginning, the infographic at the beginning, most people aren't going to be doing this. Most businesses are not going to do this. Most plumbing companies are not going to do this. Most consultancies are not going to do this.
Like 99.7% probably.
Crazy amount.
Will not do it.
But the idea here is the roadmap is iterative. You can change this as you go along. It's not linear. The scoring loop is your primary engine for refinement and long-term value creation. The better you make this thing, the better it is, the better your business does with those like problems that we're working on. Yeah, so at the end of all this, the Smart Moat is available now. The technology is no longer the barrier. The only barrier is execution. Actually doing this that's the only thing that's in the way, because the information is out there. Like Chad said, use any LLM, Gemini, ChatGPT, Claude, Grok, use that and figure out how to do it, set it up, and then just start training it.
Exactly.
Well, appreciate you guys watching the pod. Make sure if you guys made it to this point in the show that you guys just subscribe, whether you're listening to it or you're watching it. Subscribe, like, and share, and we'll see you guys on the next pod.
Pioneers Podcast. It's the Pioneers